photo.
Welcome to the last part of my Kruger vlogs. If you haven't watched any already, please definitely go watch part 1 and 2. But as I've said in my previous videos, during our field trips or excursions or field work, we saw a ton of different animals and explored different places. Thereafter, we'd end up coming back and doing a whole lot of lab work, which is kind of what I try to get a lot of footage from now. In the afternoons, we tended to have a lot of free time, including going to the pool, spending time with friends, and doing other things that we liked, such as going on afternoon drives. At the end of each night, we ended up having to come to load shedding and having to go through the practicals for the next day. Once we came back, this was actually one of my favorite practicals. We had to do different things to do with thorny bushes, and we collected samples, and in between our samples we ended up going to a coffee shop and then coming back and doing a whole lot of lab work on this specific day. This was a fully lab work day. I don't think we did any discussions on this day, and I was in a group with 3 girls, and I wanted to show the levels of the thorniness that we were exposed to in the bush. We had to do different things, and you can be rest assured that I came back with tons of scars all over my legs. This crocodile we ended up seeing all the time, and this was the only day we ended up actually seeing it peek out of the water. As I said in my second video, I became quite obsessed with hyenas on this trip. For some reason, they just reminded me of my dog, and in this particular afternoon drive, I think we were with this hyena and we just took pictures and observed it for around 10 to 15 minutes, which you might think is a long time, but game drives and spotting different kinds of animals actually goes by so fast. So for instance, if we went on a game drive in the afternoon for 3 hours, it would probably feel just like 20 minutes to half an hour, especially because you're stopping, then you're driving, and you're spending time actually taking pictures and videos and watching the animals. As I said in my previous videos, a lot of the pictures and videos I got are from different people that I met during the Kruger trip, and they were kind enough to actually give me some of their footage. What I wanted to actually show you here is this was what the flooding looked like almost a week after the floods had finished in Kruger, which I did speak about I think in my first video. But this bridge was actually closed for the most part of our trip there, and it finally ended up opening up because the water levels had gone down, and we decided to take a drive through it. This ended up being our route for the game drive for this particular day, and we saw tons of different animals. I'm sure by now you guys know I've seen elephants and giraffes and hyenas already, but I don't ever think that I will get over seeing these animals in their natural habitat. There's something just so surreal about being this close to them and them not being caged up or having a restricted habitat. So even if I had seen them for 100 days, I think I would have been just enthralled as the first time. Monkeys were also seen on abundance, especially on this day. And so again, we just spent so much of time seeing different types of monkeys and baboons climbing trees, taking care of their young, and also just finding food to eat, which was really, really interesting to see. This was actually a very lucky spotting. We actually saw, I think they're called mongoose or mongooses or mongeese. I'm honestly not sure what the plural is, but you can see with the close up what it is. I honestly got that footage by a fluke because it's actually trying to get this kind of sunset videos. And thankfully our my friend and the driver actually said, oh look, there's mongoose, and we were able to see them. That was the one new spotting we did see on this drive, which was really, really cool. This was one of my favorite sightings of the day, which was this entire troop of monkeys. But you'll see just now there are two females which are feeding their young, and here's another baby also, just going across. And I said in my previous two videos that seeing the young with their parents was one of the highlights of my trips. I had seen a calf with its mom in the case of an elephant. I had seen a cub with its mom for a hyena, and I had seen multiple monkeys with their young, and I absolutely loved it, and baboons as well, which I'm forgetting to talk about. But I tried to pause different parts of the video to show you what I mean, and you can see it here perfectly, what I was talking about. Most of our planned game drives were actually sunset drives, and although we had morning trips to our field trips, we never had true field trips and game drives in the morning. And so we started this particular game drive, I think at 7 in the morning, and we saw buffaloes and tons of beautiful birds. And the highlight, besides the birds as well, was finally getting to see lions. I do apologize for the shaky footage as well as for some of the pictures being blurry. They were quite far away. There were 4 of them, and I had to take some footage through the binoculars, which, let me tell you, was an extreme sport. But I hope that you can still appreciate the footage that I have, and it gives you, I don't know, some kind of excitement to see lions. Now, I will never call myself an exact bird watching specialist, and I definitely do not know all of the names of all of the birds, but I've always had a appreciation for birds and their amazing ability to keep a lot of the plants and trees we have alive with pollination, but also the vast differences in shapes, sounds, colors, and just their exquisite beauty. So, as I explained in this entire course, we had different groups that each presented a different practical, and we had 5 practicals. And we learned different types of methods of gathering different types of vegetation data. And so, for our final task, I guess, of the trip was actually to come up with a project of our own in different groups and to design the methods, carry it out, and basically do a mini project. So on this particular day, each person had already given their ideas, and we went to the golf club in Kruger to basically have a bit of an outing, but also to discuss the different ideas people had for individual projects and then get into groups based on who wanted what project. We ended up coming back and we saw, I think it's called a rain frog, if I'm not mistaken, and it predicted the weather for the next day pretty well because we were completely rained out and we had load shedding. So we ended up going to a primary school to have our lectures for the day. And it was so surreal being back in a classroom after almost 5 or 6 years, obviously since high school. And anyway, my group came back. We sorted through some of our results and did the final discussions of our practicals that were still remaining. And we went to go and prepare for carrying out our individual practicals or projects that we came up with ourselves for the next day. As I said, insects and animals and plants were so different to anything I've seen just because they were a lot bigger and healthier looking, such as this warthog, which you can see here, and the spider, which you saw in a previous clip. This is the group that I did the individual project designing with, and although flowers weren't our particular interest for our project, they were really, really beautiful plants that we saw along the way. These caterpillars, I think, are responsible for all of the different types of butterflies that I had in the second video. And this was actually surprisingly the only snake we saw. I got wrecked by a ton of different thorns because that's what our project was on. And once we were done collecting all of our data for the day, we got together, put all of our data together, and then rested for the evening because the next day was actually our presentations. Here are some extra pictures of the area we spent a majority of our time in if we were not in the rooms or in the field. But anyway, this is what our project presentation ended up looking like. The presentations really went well. And in the evening, we decided, well, not we, the organizers of the course decided to do a roundup bonfire to basically say what we've learned, what we've enjoyed most, and, what we maybe didn't like or things that can be improved. And we just sat there for about an hour or 2 hours sharing snacks and stories and watching the sunset. And then we ended up going to the shops and then coming back and having a braai and braaiing marshmallows. And yeah, it was just such an enjoyable evening. And we discussed, I think, probably until 10:30 or 11 at night. And then most people had to leave because they were packing to leave the next day. I ended up taking a flight out, but beforehand I went to the souvenir shop and I saw these adorable monkeys, which actually, funny story, ended up opening my bag and basically ransacking it for food because I did not think to put it inside the car as opposed to the open end part of the bakkie. But that was really, really, really funny to happen. And I ended up going to the souvenir shop and getting a t-shirt. And on my way to the Kruger airport, I was so excited to see hippos. If you watched, I think it was my first or second vlog of Kruger, you will know I did see a hippo, but I didn't get close enough footage to show them up close. And here I was blessed to see, I think, four that occasionally lifted their head out of the water. So it was a really nice way to round up the trip. This by far was the most beautiful architecture planned out airport that I had ever seen in my life. It was like being in the middle of a jungle. And I got there about an hour earlier than anticipated and just got to really explore the airport, which wasn't very big. There's only one waiting area and two flights that come and go each day. So that is the end of my video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And for those of you that have never been to Kruger National Park, or like me have never been on safari or game drives or any national park, that this kind of gave you a idea of what goes on and what you can see. I just want to say, to close off this video, that if you are thinking about doing something and something is seeming daunting to you, just go for it. You have nothing to lose. I didn't know what to expect from this course going in. Obviously, I studied ecology in my degree, but this was very different because in my degree, I didn't do a lot of things with field work. I worked a lot with technology and geographical information systems to make maps and to basically do my research and projects remotely. And so this was definitely something very new to me, and I met amazing people and I made memories that will really last a lifetime, and that never would have happened if I didn't just take a jump and send in an application and get the response to say yes, come. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and definitely comment down if you've been to Kruger National Park or any national park. Or if you haven't been to a national park, comment down below what is your favorite animal. I hope that you guys have a wonderful week ahead filled with lots of love, happiness, light, and positivity. Love you guys. Bye.